It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Tragedies like the LA fires present moments that showcase the goodness in so many, selflessly coming together to care for community members who've lost everything. And yet the worst parts of humanity also surface. Predators are seizing the opportunity now to destroy neighborhoods and prey on the vulnerable. We're getting reports that thieves dressed up as firefighters are burglarizing evacuated homes. Up to 30 have been arrested so far.
We are turning him over to LAPD because he was dressed like a fireman and he was not. He just got caught burglarizing a home.
A video went viral over the weekend. It shows residents taking down a man carrying a blowtorch near the Kenneth fire. They held him until police arrived and arrested him. Turned out it was an illegal alien from Mexico named Juan Manuel Sierra Leyva. California is literally importing their looters with sanctuary policies. You'd think they have enough homegrown looters. Maybe the homegrown looters won't like the fact that there are illegal aliens coming in and taking their American jobs. Meanwhile, California's leaders refuse to take responsibility for their gross negligence. They deflect, blame others, and even lie to cover their tracks. Both Senator Adam Schiff and Governor Gavin Newsom went on the weekend morning shows and blatantly lied about the Palisades reservoirs being full of water.
The Palisades were drawing on these 3 million-gallon reservoirs were full at the initiation of these fires.
The reservoirs are completely full. The state reservoirs here in Southern California, that mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us.
We do know, though, from reporting here locally that that one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation.
Facts sometimes get in the way of a good story, but now we have roaming arsonists, predatory gangs of looters on scooters, thieves disguised as firefighters. This is weird, even for California. But thankfully, there are so many good Samaritans out there loving their neighbors, caring for them. This heroic veterinarian took in dozens of animals, I think 41, as owners fled the Palisades fire. And one quick-thinking fire chief of Orange County who, despite a massive water problem, found a way to save a house with beer and milk. Soy milk, that is.
The block was in flames. He discovered the gas meter at the house next door was surrounded by fire and about to ignite. And he said there was no water.
So I ended up finding a carton of milk, and I think there were a couple beers or sodas, whatever the heck they were, and came out here and really, literally had to kind of go in there under the heat, wet it, and then get out.
Elon Musk is using his companies, Tesla and SpaceX, to help out. Cybertrucks with Starlinks are able to encourage people and facilitate access to the internet. That can be life-saving at times. And Orange County-based celebrity chef Andrew Gruel and his wife Lauren, they are so fantastic. They organized donors, online influencers, cooks, and neighbors for a massive food drive, assisting with the nourishment needed for people fleeing, and just to show people fleeing that there was an entity out there that cared for them. Our own Stephanie Myers took part in that donation drive, and she was in Altadena this weekend bringing supplies to firefighters and displaced residents. She joins us in studio. An incredible piece of journalism, getting out there and talking to folks affected. Where were you? What was the scene like?
So I was in Altadena, and that is being affected by the Eaton fire. So you have the Palisades fire, which of course is on the west, it's on the coast, and then you have the Eaton fire, which is more on the east, northeast. And it was apocalyptic, to say the least. It was just a very eerie scene. And Matt, just trying to get there was difficult in itself because you have these, you have Apple Maps, and they're not giving you any directions. So if you're not familiar with the area, you just kind of had to follow whatever maps you had in front of you, but you didn't have actual directions to whatever spot that I was trying to go to, which was around Christmas Tree Lane. So eventually I made my way over there somehow, some way. And I do think it's important to point out that I had to go through 4 different checkpoints and present media credentials, which I'm glad they did because of the looting, but it also, what a sad reality. And once I got there, it was very eerie. There was no one around, of course, because they're not letting any residents through. I did speak with one resident who he even told me he snuck up, walked around 3 miles or so, but it was just absolutely devastating. Everything that I saw was obliterated. No, it was a really telling conversation you had. Let's go ahead and get a clip of that great reporting from Stephanie Myers.
I just want to push for the people in this area, the city, to allow us to build, to rebuild, because they're gonna there's going to be a lot of these structures that they won't re-permit to build again. They specifically told my landlord that he would not be able to rebuild after a fire, and I think the city should give us variances to build up.
Really harrowing stories. We've also seen a number of reports from public officials with the county, with the fire department. How are the operations of the government being received by the people who are so impacted, and what are we learning from authorities most recently?
Absolutely. So what we heard from right there, that was a man named Jude. He's originally from Kentucky. He's in the music industry, and he was about to give up on California. He told me he was about to give up on California, but he saw Altadena and he really liked it. It was a nice community. And when I spoke with him, he just railed on Mayor Karen Bass, on Governor Gavin Newsom. And you've been hearing that more and more, even from these celebrities whose homes have been affected in the Pacific Palisades area. So people are asking why this could have been prevented. Why wasn't there enough preventative measures taken? And I also want to point out how back in September, then candidate Trump, he actually met with the mayor of Palos Verdes, and he talked about how there needs to be better water distribution, in a sense, to put it lightly. He emphasized how Governor Gavin Newsom, he's all about protecting the environment and protecting these Delta fish, but yet these residents, as we saw right there, you see these wildfires, these images that are coming through, and it's just absolutely devastating, and you have these high winds. And also I want to point out how apparently we have the same number of fire departments today, LA County does, as it did 60 years ago. And you have to question, why is that? We know that the population has only grown. You have these red flag warnings. Our technology is, of course, more up to date. They should have been more prepared to handle a situation like this. So it's interesting to see that people are, again, they're hammering on these officials at the local, city, and even state level and asking, why did this happen? This could have been prevented.
Well, your outstanding report really showed the scale of that devastation, and also I think the level of shock that people are going through as they're having to go through 4 security checkpoints just to find what was their life in a pile of ashes. And what I really wonder here, Stephanie, is whether or not people are going to connect the policy choices that put them in this position with the pain and the suffering that they're feeling. And maybe it's not, day 4 or 5 after your house gets burned down, but after 4 or 5 weeks or 4 or 5 months, you've got to start asking yourself, who should I hold accountable for the fact that the infrastructure wasn't built, that the fire departments weren't sufficiently supported? And we've seen recently Gavin Newsom would like to speak to the manager. He announced over the weekend that he's launching an investigation to find out what happened. We would never tolerate that in Florida. We understand that the state government largely oversees and executes these responses. As you're talking to folks, are they drawing that clear line of connection, or is it just such a state of shock right now, people aren't really wondering about the policies?
So when I spoke with Jude, the gentleman that we heard from, he said that it was pretty much all still a state of shock. He said he was given the orders to evacuate, and he said he's still processing that information. And I think what you're seeing sort of the 5 stages of grief right now. But a lot of these people, they don't know whether their home is still standing. I would occasionally see one home standing, maybe out of 25 homes that I would pass through. There would be, for some reason, there'd be one home standing. They got super lucky. But a lot of these people, as you mentioned, they're in a state of shock. When I was visiting Calico restaurant up in Huntington Beach, where Chef Andrew Gruel and Lauren Gruel, they've been doing a great job putting together donations.
You went to help them, right?
I went to help them, yes. And Lauren introduced me to a couple of Altadena residents, and they were just in tears over what's happened. And they just want to get back to see if they can retrieve anything. But right now, officials are saying that they can't let residents go back there right now because of these red flag warnings, and they haven't deemed it safe yet. So you had people like Jude who walked 3 or 4 miles trying to pass these security checkpoints, where he saw that his house, he's a renter, but he saw that his house burned down.
We are so grateful to Chef Gruel, to Lauren for all they've done to organize a lot of energy around this neighbor-to-neighbor emergency response. And that really is the most impactful. It's certainly a great source of pride for OAN that you were there helping them, and also this fantastic report. Stephanie, we look forward to checking back with you as you continue to cover this fire, the fallout for people's lives, and then hopefully some of the changes in policy that can improve conditions and improve the nature of our disaster response here.
Absolutely. I definitely think this will absolutely turn the tide for a lot of people, and you hear it right now, and I think it's only going to grow. Matt, thank you so much.